Who is the most forgettable Four Horsemen member of all time? What if I told you there was a horseman you probably don't even remember? I'm talking about the most unfamous horseman of them all, Kendall Windham. His run on the Four Horsemen was so short, it officially lasted about a week in early 1989. When fans think of the Four Horsemen, names like Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard, Barry Windham, Ole Anderson, and J.J. Dillon immediately come to mind. Over the years, the group had many less celebrated members: Paul Roma, Steve Mongo McMichael, Jeff Jarrett, and then there is the totally forgotten member, Kendall Windham. So how did Kendall go from enhancement talent to being a part of the most elite stable in pro wrestling? Kendall Windham was born with pro wrestling in his blood. His father was Blackjack Mulligan, who was a dependable heel in the wrestling world. He wrestled for various NWA promotions around the country, as well as wrestling for the WWF in the 70s and early 80s, and for Vince Jr. in the WWF in the mid 80s. Kendall's brother was Barry Windham, who was an absolute natural and had an it factor very shortly into his career after changing his name from Blackjack Mulligan Jr. when he would tag with his father breaking into the business in the early 80s. Barry Windham was a babyface until he joined the Four Horsemen in April of 1988 after turning on Lex Luger to help Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard regain their World Tag Team titles. Kendall Windham started wrestling when he was just 16 years old in Florida in 1984, debuting just 4 years after his older brother Barry and hoping to forge a similar path to success. He feuded with Jack Hart, otherwise known as Barry Horowitz, the Cuban Assassin, and the White Ninja. You may know him better as the Great Muta. One thing that was noticeable when comparing Barry to his brother Kendall was how much smaller Kendall was. He was tall like Barry, but was very slender in his build. Once Kendall made it to a national stage, this would prove hard to overcome. Kendall Windham may have been born into wrestling royalty, but the family legacy was a double-edged sword. Could Kendall really step out of Barry's shadow? After Kendall got to the NWA in 1987, he was mostly used as an enhancement talent. He would often come up on the losing end of his matches. He went through several different tag team partners during the next 2 years, having very little success in the promotion. He would team with Todd Champion, the Italian Stallion, Jimmy Valiant, Ricky Santana, and Tim Horner. He had the most success with Ricky Santana in their feud with the Sheep Herders in 1988. This team was short-lived, and nothing could get Kendall to the next level seemingly. In the fall of 1988, Kendall took a brief leave of absence and would return in December of '88 again with a new tag team partner. This time teaming with another second-generation wrestler named Dustin Rhodes, who was very young in the business and the son of the legendary Dusty Rhodes. They called themselves the Texas Broncos. This was the most success he had had on TV, as the team was being presented as undefeated on television but kept coming up short on house shows against the Midnight Express. This team also would be brief because Dustin didn't stick with the NWA for very long and went to wrestle for PWF in Florida, a new promotion starting up. Their last television appearance together was in early January of '89, losing their first TV match against Larry Sabisco and Al Perez. Despite years of trying, Kendall Windham couldn't catch a break in the NWA. How did Kendall become the shortest-lived horseman in wrestling history?
We live life to the fullest. We get things done in the ring. Kendall Windham wanted a part of that. He's become a horseman.
In early 1989, in the NWA, the Four Horsemen wasn't what it had been years previously. Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard had left for the WWF in September of '88 due to contractual disagreements with the NWA. This left Ric Flair, Barry Windham, and J.J. Dillon as the only members of the faction. J.J. Dillon started managing Butch Reed, but Reed was never officially a member of the Horsemen and never appeared on TV with all of the Horsemen together. In interview segments, they teased Dillon had paid a lot of money for the services of Reed, but they never went as far as to name him a member of the team. Eddie Gilbert was feuding with Barry Windham, which means he was feuding with the Four Horsemen in early '89. On World Championship Wrestling, January 21st, 1989, Gilbert brought in a mystery partner to face both Windham and Flair, managed by James J. Dillon, and it turned out to be Ricky Steamboat. This helped set up the ongoing Steamboat and Flair feud that would dominate much of '89 for the world's title. The next week on NWA Main Event, January 29th, 1989, Eddie Gilbert got another partner who would know the most about Barry Windham for a special tag team match that saw Barry Windham tag with J.J. Dillon to face Eddie Gilbert and Barry's own brother Kendall Windham. During this match, Kendall turned on Eddie Gilbert. All three men attacked Gilbert, punctuated by a promo. Kendall Windham was made an official Four Horsemen member and even flashed the four fingers. The new Horsemen would be Flair, the Windhams, and teasing Butch Reed as the fourth member alongside J.J. Dillon. This lasted all of a week in the wrestling world. Little did anyone else know, at least in the NWA, that J.J. Dillon was on his way out of the promotion to work for the WWF in a front office job. J.J., like Arn and Tully before him, was not happy with the pay cut coming down the pike. Dillon also sold his home for a significant loss to ensure a clean break that was also executed in secrecy. With Dillon gone, this left the NWA with current plans up in the air, and they decided to stop using the Four Horsemen name for the time being and brought in Hiro Matsuda to take the place of Dillon, and they used the name Yamazaki Corporation for the stable. This included Ric Flair, Barry Windham, Kendall Windham, and Butch Reed, at least in storyline at first, but this didn't last very long. Barry didn't have long left with the NWA either. He would soon be leaving in March before showing up in the WWF in June of 1989 as the Widowmaker. Kendall Windham's time as a Horseman was shockingly brief, a high point that disappeared almost as quickly as it appeared. The Four Horsemen will always be remembered as one of the greatest factions of all time, but Kendall Windham's week-long run shows just how fragile wrestling opportunities can be. One moment, you're flashing the four fingers on TV, the next, you're a forgotten footnote in the wrestling history. If you enjoyed that video, check out the time that Brian Blair and Matt Borne got into a fight after a show in a bar. A fight that Ric Flair calls the greatest he had ever seen in person. You can check that out right here. And also make sure you're subscribed and have the bell clicked for any future videos and live streams that I may have. Every Sunday night, 6 Eastern, I go live here on this channel with classic wrestling.